Howdy, folks. It is I, the Solo Gamer, back again. And we're continuing where I left off last time with, well, not last time, but one of my recent videos was about the arcade archives and other retro games currently filtering their way back into the market. Today, we'll continue that trend by showing some more arcade archives goodness from a variety of different supplies and genres. This is Viper Phase 1. An absolutely insanely good shooter that is also incredibly difficult, which, par for the course. It is also one of the most visually stunning of its era. Like, this came out right as the 3D era was about to really start off, and you can tell they were trying to adopt it with this sort of semi-pixelized 3D sprite work style. It's hard to tell at times. I can't tell if it's 3D generated, if it's sprite work, if it's a mix of the two. It just looks so cool. But it is what it is, and I mean, like, this is undeniably one of those games that I think a lot of people were, completely unaware of in a major way, because this game never got a large-scale release. I don't remember ever seeing it in any arcade I ever visited, despite the fact that I think it would have killed. But I think it just came out at a wrong time for it. But this game is one of those classic old school 2D shooters. Phenomenal, simple, easy to pick up, hard to master. But the sheer volume of activity, is absolutely fantastic. And there's a wide variety of weapons, like the missile barrage, the napalm launcher, the laser cannon, you get it. But the game is a very, very efficiently done, sort of over-the-top super shooter. And I adore this kind of game. I'm not very good at them, I'll be straight up on that. In fact, I'd honestly say I'm kind of bad. My reflexes just aren't there for it anymore. Haven't been for a long time. But I still absolutely adore this kind of game. And on the Arcade Archives, I have infinite credits, so I can actually beat it if I choose to invest the time. But this missile combo is exceptionally good, especially because it covers a wide area and does enormous damage. %, destruction. If your army took 92% destruction in an area, you'd hand in your hat and just walk away saying, I'm done. I'm not fighting this fight anymore because we just got absolutely stomped on. Ooh, bomb replacement. But yeah, like, this game is visually very well done for its time. Like, when it launched, this was really high end. But it's also very difficult. And of course, the vertical alignment doesn't really translate well to modern televisions, unfortunately. It was fine in the arcades, sure, but it doesn't work well with the home systems. Anyway, create interim data there. And we'll hop on out here. But I wanted this to be just, I wanted to sort of show you the sheer variety of options in here. Now, another shooter, this time of the side-scrolling variety. And this game I am familiar with, though I never actually got to play it in the arcade. I've only ever seen it. Alright, I need to adjust them display settings. There we go. And as I may have mentioned in a previous video, this is Ben Presto's Super Dimensional Fortress Macross 2. Based primarily on the movie, I believe, but Ben Presto was like the huge, like, if you were going to do an anime game, this was like this was like the whole deal. And it also came with 9 levels across 3 difficulty levels, each representing different parts of the story, I believe. Now granted, it has been what feels like an eternity since I ever saw Macross, so I don't remember 99% of this crap. I remember this scene for some reason. I think I might have seen it on a YouTube Shorts or something. But yeah, check her out. The show must go on, and we got a front row seat. And now, mech mode for your super move. I kind of like that the mech mode is your super attack. The proverbial Macross Missile Massacre. But the game is a very straightforward, very upfront sort of 2D classic shooter. Very good, mind you. Like I'm not gonna give it any criticism. I will say it is exceptionally hard. Like, this is level 1 on easy mode, and you're getting just swarmed right out the gate. Thankfully, the 2 modes have different purposes. Fighter is more like straight up direct offense. Gearwalk covers more area and can do damage across a wider battlefield. Not ask for that. And there we go. First victory out. And already you're getting swarmed again. Like within minutes. Now I should point out, this game does have a time limit. But if you beat the boss before the time limit, stage clear. So let's create the interrupt there. Yeah, I am kind of shotgunning these as fast as I can, because last time I did a proper Archives dive, it was an hour long. So I'm trying to keep these short and sweet. And for stuff like Super Dimensional and Viper, it's straightforward shooter. I mean, there's not much to it. Let's get to something with a little bit more... something a little bit different. This is a game I have played long ago, but I do not recall much about it other than the fact that it's a fighting game, and I remember seeing this logo. Namco. God, I remember seeing this at one of those like multi-function amusement parks where it's like rides, arcade, mini golf, all that. But that's about all I remember about this. Display size. Why doesn't it just default to the size I want? Annoying. But this game, I remember being kind of unique and interesting because it was like right at the end. I remember it being like right at the end of the like fighting game frenzy, and right at the end of like the big like fighting game boom. What was unique about it was it didn't use up for jump the way most games did at the time. Instead, you actually had a dedicated jump button, and your super moves came about by you using you held the button and charged up your attack, and then you let go and you release it, and depending upon your positioning, it caused different things. Now, this game is very different from Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. A big part of it being that the combat is way more positional based than move based, because all the moves are essentially identical. depending upon what your position on the stick is at the time, you do different moves. Like if I'm pressing forward, I do the swipe, but if I do it in combination with the... Oh, well, thank you for getting me on the other side of the screen. But if you do like certain maneuvers with it, you do the flying knee, or you do the... Got him. But the game itself is a fairly simple, straightforward fighter. It's the controls and mechanisms that are absolutely different from any game I'd ever played at the time. And understanding that was very much the... You can use your moves while jumping, and it can be very efficient, but the moment you jump, you release, you use a move. Now it is notable, each of these games has a manual available to you, and they also have the special moves. Now it does have traditional special moves. The power depends upon how long you've been holding the charge button when you go through it. For example, her moves are mostly charge moves. And the attack levels aren't strong or fierce, they're high and low, which makes it very interesting. But like, it's a game with such a unique style. Whoops. But like, she has the Chun-Li like super speed attack, which is in fact just mash high. You can do the super moves independently. Whoa. But you can also try to mix them with charge attack to get bonus damage. It is, the controls, I will give it this. Its controls aren't bad, but they are not reliably suited for this kind of thing. They also are not good for the D-pad. But that may just be that the D-pad on the D-pads, on the fact that the D-pad kind of blows on the PS5 controller. It's actually easier to use the joystick on this. Ow! But yeah, it's not a bad game, and it's actually a lot of fun once you understand the mechanics. But it is indeed one of those games that is a key example of the era in which it came to. And I think a lot of people would be quite shocked that this game came out in 1993 when it did. Like, it was honestly quite the head turner given the time frame, but it was still kind of an oddball out of all the fighting games that came out at the era. I mean, no joke. But like, but if you want an odd sort of fighting game with some unique mechanics, you could definitely do worse. I'd be the first to tell you. I've seen my fair share of oddball fighting games. Don't doubt that. But you gotta remember that game came out in 1993. That was only 2 years after Street Fighter II had first hit the market. So everyone was in on this massive sort of, fighting game kick. And this was an interesting attempt by Namco to break into it. Sadly, it didn't quite pan out. Now let's go to something a little bit more violent, shall we? This is a game I actually did play once in a little arcade at a truck stop. Interesting game, but certainly nothing I would have anticipated. But Spinal Breakers is one of those games that, for lack of a better term was all over the place back in that era. And what it was is a behind-the-back shooter on a constantly scrolling screen. And what gave this game its unique style was it was like fighting World War II zombies with modern firearms, and kind of showing that, yeah, one dude would have been an absolute nightmare for the German army with modern weaponry, but they could eventually have brought him down. War is not always about superior tech specifically, but to match superior tech, you need ridiculous numbers of firepower. Yeah, this is Nazi zombies before the Nazi zombies ever was. Like this is the zombies mode from COD, decades in advance. Ooh, heavy weapon. Not sure what I'm armed with, but it is definitely making a mincemeat out of these guys. But yeah, it's a straightforward shooter. And an easy way to kill 5 or 10 minutes if you're in the need for it. What made this game... Oh. More powerful bullets. Yeah, this is the whole time traveling against various zombie armies. And I think this is supposed to be like the Mongols, I guess? Or something like that. Certainly feels that way with all the arrows coming at me. But it's definitely one of those things where I would have loved this kind of thing when I was younger. Nowadays, it's an interesting novelty and cool to see how the gaming world was changing back in that day, with stuff like this becoming more prevalent, which would lead to stuff like the Call of Duties and the... Ooh, you guys are in for it now. I got the drum mag. But that doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that, all things being equal, this game was a product of its era, and that era was the early '90s when everybody was on that whole dark violence kick and all that crap. And this game did its best to try and ride the line between that thing and like, you know, not go too far over the top and do a lot of really, you know, over the limit violence. But it was a good game, and I still think it's actually very good for its era. All right, let's deal with him, and then I'll move on to something else. This guy's got literal fireballs. Ain't even using his staff. That ain't fair. Oh, where'd you die? There you go. But yeah, that's kind of all there is really to it. It's level by level. You go through, you fight enemies, you do the usual thing. But this came out in 1991, right at the time when things were starting to hit that very sort of hardcore, like, you know, edgy, violent stuff, you know, all that kind of thing that was happening. Now, that being said, this was also an era where, like, most games required a certain level of skill to have any real success in. But other games were just strictly about, hey, how much money you got in your pocket, kid. Now, this game was kind of a little bit of both. Final Blow is a legendarily difficult boxing game that I remember Taito put out in the arcades. 1988, right before the 90s kicked in. So this was still back when the technology was just really starting to reach its limits for sprite work. And they were starting to slowly get into 3D stuff. Now on the arcades, 3D was starting to really make a headway, but consoles hadn't quite reached that limit yet. And Final Blow is a perfect example of that. Now, be advised, a lot of these games do come with what do you call it? Difficulty modifiers to make the game a little bit more accessible. But if you want to play this the way it was in the arcade, you play it on the original normal mode.
Dynamite Joe.
So basically you pick a boxer, and then your job is to fight through the other boxers. But what made this game stand out was its, what's the word? Shall we say, stylized visuals? Now here's the deal. You've got your light jab, you've got your dodge, you've got your hard blows. But this game was legendarily brutal for having some of the hardest combat in any boxing game ever. Mainly because there's no tells, there's no way to recognize what your opponent's doing, and there's no way to really reflex well enough to keep ahead of him. Most of the good players knew how to recognize the patterns and break through with just raw force. But really, the only way you could win was to just get in and start spamming blows until you broke through. But it's a good game if you know how to play it. But like, if you mess up, it's instantly over, and you will lose over and over again. It's super hard. It's a good game, but it's an example of a game that it's mostly nostalgia for me. Now, on the other hand, here's another boxing game that came out at the exact same time, but from a different company. It was by Konami. And this game is actually, in my opinion, the better of the two games. But the final round, originally known as Hard Puncher, came over to the international scene in well, 1988 is when it was released. I think I saw it in 1989. But you got your guard, body punch, and face punch, and it's all pretty clear how this works. Now, game settings, standard, difficulty, demo. All this stuff is as it is. Display frame, no. Display size, yes. There we go. Now this was interesting because you could choose your levels. Now I always prioritize speed, simply because speed was usually more important than raw power, because landing the hits fast usually added up to some quick victory. There's a low punch, low punch, low punch, high punch, high punch. But yeah, getting them big heavy hits is where it's at. But yeah, it's a hard fight.
1, 2, 3, 4.
But it's winnable if you know how. But it will be you and him just throwing hands like nobody's business.
1, 2,
Got him with the cross.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Body blow. And he's down. And it is not any coincidence that he's supposed to look kind of like Rocky. I know that. Just like it is no coincidence that this guy kind of looks a little bit like some of the... Well, in game he doesn't look like anyone, but in his splash art he kind of looked a little bit like some of the guys Rocky was fighting early on before he got shot with Creed. Yeah. Nice uppercut. Ooh, good counter. Oh, good cross. Got your pin now, bitch. You're done.
1, 2, 3, 4.
But now he's got the upper hand, so we're gonna have to get in there and fight. Gotcha there. Jab flurry, knocked him down again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I love how all the cameras come over to record the fact that I just punked this bitch. Got me with that good combo.
1, 2, 3.
And up. Body blow, body blow, body blow, and he's down. But yeah, as you can tell, what made this game better was not only was it less difficult than Final Blow, but it was way more forgiving in the combat. Thank you, girls. But like that's a big part of the problem with a lot of the games of this era was that they had a hard time finding the balance point between difficulty and playability. Now, Final Star Force is another example of the shooter era, because while a lot of people will credit like Street Fighter for creating the fighting game era, the shooting era had begun many years before, In particularly the 80s, the shooter was one of the most common and popular game franchises. And a big part of that was, inherently, the ease. Yes, it was, a matter of whatever technology you were running on. But it was still easy to program a simple game of move, shoot, take out target, etc., etc. The more complicated you made it, the more work it took, but the baseline stuff was super easy. And games like this were very popular in the coin-op of the day. Now, me personally, I love them, but as I mentioned before, not the best. But games like this, had very, very simple, easy to play actions, and could be very, very... Yeah, no, I didn't mean to do that. Could be very, very easy to pick up and play. Now, what made this game interesting was you actually built up power as you played. Whatever weapon you had, as you fired it and destroyed targets, you gained bonuses and special abilities that gave you a bit of an edge. It made the game less difficult than some of its contemporaries, while still giving it a visual flair and energy level that is essential for this kind of game. A slow, boring shooter is not fun. That's just facts. Yeah! Let the lightning roll, baby. And as noted, your weapon changes depending upon what weapon you're currently wielding. So if you've got the guns, it's just boom, 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 explosions. If you've got the thunderbolt, it's a thunderstorm. It literally ball lightnings all over the damn map. Which can make this game a lot of fun. If you have a particular favorite weapon, you can pick that weapon and use it as part of your plans to engage the enemy. Now that being said, it is a one-hit kill, baby. You get hit once, you are done. So you better be ready for that fight. It's also notable that the music changes depending upon how powerful you are and how well your weapons are, which is a neat feature, something you didn't see a lot, at least it seems to be how it operates. The stronger you are, the more heroic the music is. It could also be that it changes mid-level, I can't really tell. That might have just been timing. But I mean, look. Nope, see, it's weapon-based, because now I'm back to this shit. And it's just, I'm back to the basic cred, now I've got the crasher, and the sound changes again. So this game had a lot of neat stuff that wasn't really common for the era. I still think that, all things being equal, games like this were what kept the shooter genre alive for a long time, even when other stuff started to take its place in the arcades. And of course, I can continue whenever I want. But I'm assuming each weapon has its own unique weapon sounds and music and all that. So far, that seems to be the case. Like this basic crappy. Ooh, wide burst, and it has its own music. Nice. Damn it! And I suck again. But yeah, games like this were incredibly challenging, but a lot of fun. And if you got really good at them, it's not uncommon to see stuff like, full one-credit run-throughs online line of games like this. Hell, one of the there's a Twitter account I keep seeing popping up sometimes, called Super Sissy, and she does one credit runs of this stuff all the time. So it's definitely doable. Now let's move on to something a little bit more cute. Now, the Ninja Kids has a reputation in the West as a bit of an oddball because it wasn't well known or even recognized in the United States because it wasn't released here initially. It was released overseas, but it wasn't released in the US as far as I know. I played it on a MAME emulator back in the day, which, to be fair, a lot of people did. But what made the game unique was its sense of humor. Like, the game is straight out taking the piss. And fair enough.
The Ninja Kid.
But you can choose your character. And I love how each of them is a puppet. Like it's a puppet show for children. And the evil Satan has come to claim servants. And no, the game is completely well aware of how ridiculous it looks. And no, it does not give a crap. But the Ninja Kids is one of those games that was very much a product of its time. Like, it knew exactly what it was, and it didn't hold back. It also had a very stylized and unique visual, which, to be fair, gave it a lot of charm for its time. But it's got an almost Ari Fleischer-esque got like an almost Ari Fleischer-esque cartoon vibe to it. Not that I'm... The Blizzard! Oh crud, I forgot about that. But the game is definitely a product of a time when Japan was being like enormously experimental. And for good or for bad, it does create a very distinct visual. But I'd be lying if I said that this was like the best beat 'em up of all time. What people loved about was the absolute ridiculousness of it. Like, this game did not care about it did not care about anything. Didn't care if you were offended, didn't give a shit if you liked its visuals. It just ran with it. And I understand, like, from what I heard, it did fairly well as a coin-op arcade game, but like, it never got to the level where like any kind of home port was created, which is a shame.
Thank you.
And what's even more fun is that you can change to different characters every time you switch, every time you continue. And each character has just enough variety to make them stand out. But it's like the whole game is supposed to be a puppet show. Like it's a children's TV show or something. And I find that immensely charming. Now, let's see, what else do I have to share today? I'm saving Ridge Racer for last because, I mean, at this point, if you don't know Ridge Racer, probably you probably aren't a big PlayStation fan, but this is arguably one of the most legendary games from the SNK library of its era. And for a number of reasons, but I'll just let you see this intro, and then you can understand why. And this was 1991. This came out at the same year that Street Fighter did, to give you a frame of reference. But what made this game so much fun was it was a baseball game, a proper baseball game. But it took like this cyberneck, cyberpunk style to it. And did not, like, in any way hold back. And you'll see that momentarily. Like, seriously. Ooh, nice shot. Like, the ref is a robot. They're all wearing powered armor of some kind. Damn it. Good throw. Oh, foul ball. And if you pay attention, one of the crowd members is a robot just constantly flipping the bird. Or at least that's what it kind of looks like. Oh, blast it, blast it. Yes, it's out. Go, 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 go. Save. Ah, come on, baby, get out. Ah, damn it. But now look, my pitcher's a robot. Phew. Now the game's AI did have some glitches that you could exploit. One of them being that if your pitcher and the batter came in from the same direction, you could absolutely drive the batter nuts by just constantly shifting the ball's momentum in different directions. But it made the game a lot more interesting. Didn't even bother to show it because he was safe by about a mile. But yeah, see how he didn't swing? That's because it's coming in at an angle that he can't read. And the game knows that if he swings out incorrectly, it'll foul ball it. Otherwise, boom, caught instantly, it's over. I'm just trying to get a home run for you, but we'll see. Oh, nice. That should get them there in time. Yes. Now watch. Power up time. So if I choose, I can get a power-up that gives me an advantage. Which is going to force him to change how he plays. Damn it. Missed my opportunity. Alright, can't sandbag it on me. You gotta throw. Nice catch. So he's either going to have to walk me or he's going to have to throw straight. Nice catch. But yeah, you can see where I'm getting at. Like, this game is a blast. It's fast-paced. It's energetic. And it runs smooth as glass. I will give credit where it's due. Like, the Neo Geo games for the Arcade Archives are all top tier. Now, last time I showed you Crime City, Neiman Lex, Techno Knight, most of the stuff here. The last game I'm going to do, because this video's run long already, is I'm going to do Ridge Racer real quick. Now, Ridge Racer is one of those games that was a seminal experience. Like, it upended gaming. Brake, accelerate, clutch, neutral, shift to higher gear, shift to lower gear. Like, this game actually did include gear shifting, which was crazy at the time.
Ridge Racer.
And it also includes like wallpapers and stuff. It's pretty cool. The game has a undeniable
All right, everyone. 1 minute to go. Are you ready?
Now you can do manual transmission or you can do automatic.
To go. Are you all set?
Now I do automatic.
3, 2, 1, go!
But Ridge Racer was one of the first games I remember being like full 3D and having just this manic sense of speed. Now I remember this being hard to control in the arcade, so it's gonna take me a little getting used to. But if you pay attention, you'll notice something about the backdrops in certain parts of the scenery. They might look familiar. It's because parts of them would be used in the Air and Ace Combat series later on. Because this is also by the same company. But damn, the drift on these was harsh. Man, it has been a hot minute. Freaking trying to pit me, you bitch? I don't think so. But yeah, you can drift turn. You can slip past. You can. I don't know if you can drift behind them like you can in some other games. But like this game was absolutely groundbreaking for its time. And it would, in time, become one of the most long-running and successful driving racing games in its era, until I think Gran Turismo and, by extension, Forza would replace it. And to be fair, I'd take a new Ridge Racer over a Gran Turismo or Forza any bloody day of the week. I'm not big on... I'm not big on the simulation-style driving games. I much prefer arcade. They're just more fun. It's like I'm not here because I drive a car every weekend to do all my errands and run through all the stuff I need to do. I don't want to try and recreate that experience just to go fast. Always prefer. I will always prefer arcade style. That's why I love, like, one of my favorite racing games of all time was Split Second. Or, I guess, depending upon what version you had, Split Dash Second Velocity. Nonsense that was. Not bad, though. Coming in third on my first run in 20 years. Still, Ridge Racer is a perfect invocation of an era long forgotten. And a lot of it can boil down to the fact that a lot of these games are examples of what was, at the time, either, I guess you'd call it the emergent effort of its era, or alternatively, you might call it like the last gasp of a particular series. Like, here's a game by Taito, Dead Connection, that came out in 1992. This was after Street Fighter 2 hit, and yet Taito, for whatever reason, was like, nah, let's do something with let's do something old school style.
We're counting on you. We're counting on you. Don't let us down.
But basically, this was meant to be a 4-player shooter game with a unique feature in that the game did have something standing out for it. Its backgrounds.
Hands in the air. Everyone free.
Its backgrounds were active parts of the environment and could actually have impact. Could actually have like active effects in the game itself. And like you could get different weapons like revolvers, which had way more powerful shots, but you only got a handful of them. On the other hand, you could get to the shotgun, which, to be fair, like, they call this thing shotgun. I'd be more inclined to call it grenades, because look at that crap. But like this game was a test case of like just how far could you push the pixel technology with like interactive backgrounds, and they did a lot of really interesting stuff with it. But honestly, I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of shocked that the game even came out when it did, because this was the time when a lot of stuff was already moving forward to new technologies. And you'd see like 3D hitting the market shortly thereafter in 1995, so it was kind of like the last gasp of this era. But it's also an immensely fun game, like a straight out just blast away shooter. But it's an example of a lot of how these games over time began to fade out with their contemporaries. And I feel like a lot of games nowadays put too much stock in visual fidelity or high-end graphical systems, when sometimes all you really need is bright, clear, colorful graphics and some fun mechanics, and that'll do the job. And I'm hoping that the Arcade Archives will help a lot of younger generations see the new, see the games anew for the first time in their lives, and recognize that, yeah, there was some unique stuff happening back in the day. Not all of it was winners, I'll be the first to admit. But I feel like a lot of games nowadays need to pull back a little bit and consider just how far have we gone with this stuff, and maybe do we need to step back a bit, Anyway. I'm going to cut it here. Just wanted to show off some of the new stuff I picked up from the Arcade Archives. But I do feel like the gaming series as a whole is like, I feel like if you want to trip down memory lane, or if you're looking to see some of the history of gaming, then this is a good place to go, like I've said before. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. This is the Solo Gamer. You can call me Matt. And I'll catch you guys later. Signing out. Bye.